If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead no more than 7 minutes. Hello, welcome. I am predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on August 1st, 2025. This time-stamped email proves that this prediction that Paul Simon will die on August 1st, 2025 has been known since November 9th. We can see here the timestamp November 9th, 2024. On November 8th, 2024, we received the relevant prophetic signs related to Paul Simon. And as I wrote right here, God was pointing to November 8th ahead of time because Simon's death will point to Revelation chapter 8, verse 1. And this is the reason why Paul Simon will die on August 1st, 2025. In short, the date 8:1 and 11:8 hint at Revelation 8:1 in the Bible, which describes a period of silence that was observed in heaven. Paul Simon's first hit was Sound of Silence. As I wrote right here, it is exactly 38 weeks between November 8th and August 1st, 2025, and Paul Simon is predicted to die at the age of 83, for which 38 weeks hints at. A dirty bomb is a conventional explosive that uses radioactive material. I am predicting that 3 dirty bombs will explode in New York City, in Times Square, Penn Station, and Grand Central Station. There will then be a massive evacuation from Manhattan Island. I am predicting that these 3 dirty bombs will explode on either August 30th or September 4th. I am also predicting that a dirty bomb will explode in the port of Los Angeles on September 4th. I am predicting that Tehran, Iran, will be nuked by the US or possibly Israel on September 7th, 2025. This will obviously be in response to the dirty bombs that are predicted to explode in New York City. I am predicting that Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom will die in a plane crash in St. Louis as they are traveling from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles in Busch Stadium in St. Louis on August 2nd, 2028. This will be during the predicted presidential campaign of Gavin Newsom. As a result of Gavin Newsom's death, Michelle Obama will become the Democrat Party's presidential nomination. Michelle Obama will, quote unquote, win the election over J.D. Vance on November 7th, 2028, and will become the president on January 20th, 2029. Donald Trump is predicted to run as J.D. Vance's vice president. This scheme to overcome the 22nd Amendment will backfire and inspire Michelle Obama and Barack Obama to run on the ticket with Barack Obama as Michelle Obama's vice president. She will then step down and Barack Obama will become the president again. It is predicted that there will be a massive Mary apparition on the beach in Rio, Brazil on April 24th, 2029. It is now recognized that there will be 2 massive Mary apparitions on the beach in Rio. The first of the 2 is predicted to be on March 22nd, 2029. These predicted Mary apparitions will not be secretive. They will be mainstream, worldwide news. Like all Mary apparitions in history, including at Lourdes, Guadalupe, and Fatima, this Mary apparition will be a demon pretending to be Mary. It is predicted that on April 26th, 2029, the key will open the bottomless pit and fallen angels will cross over into the earthly realm. April 26th, 2029 will be a symbolic beginning to the fifth trumpet judgment that is described in Revelation chapter 9, when the demonic realm collides with the earthly realm. April 26th, 2029 will be a symbolic beginning to demons pretending to be aliens. The demons pretending to be aliens will claim to be here to help us with our nuclear weapons. It is predicted that Pope Francis will be resurrected from the grave on April 26th, 2029. And it is possible that on this day, Pope Francis will announce that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. This will immediately give Pope Francis, the Antichrist, supreme power over governments of the world. April 26th, 2029 will be a symbolic beginning to a zombie pandemic and the masses becoming demonically possessed that will be facilitated through the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist and 5G frequencies. April 26th, 2029 will be a symbolic beginning to the coming genocide politicide in America. The resurrection rapture event will occur on Pentecost on May 27th, 2029. On September 11th, 2029, there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit of Earth in the Indian Ocean. The greatest seismic effect of this will be felt on the other side of the globe, which is North America, and this will trigger an eruption of Yellowstone volcano and will cause the volcano in the Canary Islands to collapse into the Atlantic Ocean and send a mega tsunami towards the east coast. It will also trigger the collapse of the Hoover Dam, which will cause a water panic in California, and many other devastating earthquakes. The day of the Lord, the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, Judgment Day, will be at the end of 2031. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. All right, welcome. This video is predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on August 1st, 2025. It is also predicting that there will be dirty bombs in New York City and the Port of Los Angeles on August 30th and or November 4th. And there will be an asteroid that will hit Earth and trigger the eruption of Yellowstone volcano on September 11th, 2029. And as I will explain, the death of Hulk Hogan on the same day as it was announced, or rather trumpeted, that Chuck Mangione had died, the famous trumpeter, are prophetic signs that reveal these things and confirm these predictions and their dates. Now, as you can see, this email was written an hour ago. Today is September 24th. As we can see here, July 24th. Okay, if you are skeptical for some reason, email me and I'll forward this to you. But I fail to see how you would be skeptical. Also, the post date of this video will prove that this prediction is being made ahead of time. Okay, and so regarding the prediction that Paul Simon will die on August 1st, I have known, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, that this is the case since November of 2024. And anyway, to the skeptic that will say, I must have made a video giving reasons for how Paul Simon is going to die on a particular date for every date of the calendar year, you are a crazy person. Okay? That's completely irrational. Only a crazy person would do that. And so that makes you the crazy person for thinking that someone would do that. All right? And furthermore, the reasons that I'll be giving are clear and profound. No human could concoct these reasons in their own imagination. No one is that creative. I am certainly not that creative, but no one is. Okay? And that will prove it. Furthermore, I have hundreds of things to say about Paul Simon. And there are many, many reasons. I've made many videos now, and I won't even have time to get all of the reasons for how August 1st is known ahead of time. Okay, but there are many, many reasons for why I know August 1st is the date, and it's not just covered in the reasons in this video. All right, and they're all equally profound. So, and to the person that's like, after the prediction comes to pass, they're open-minded, but they need another prediction, I feel sorry for you. This is enough. If you are a rational person, but human beings aren't rational by nature, right? The problem is people have what is called a worldview, and there's something in psychology called belief perseverance. This is an amazing phenomena that my life struggle is to overcome, because I'm an evangelist and I'm here to give the proof of the God of the Bible. And the problem is people don't need proof. It's ultimately a matter of the heart. And the reason why proof doesn't really work, although it should, and it does work. I mean, personally, I needed proof. Long story short, right? I mean, how I came to faith was through reading a book regarding the prophecies in the Bible regarding Israel. I was open-minded to read such a book after 9/11. A lot of people became interested in prophecy and Nostradamus, etc. at that time. And so I was open-minded enough to thank the Lord. There's way more to my personal story as to how I got that book in my hand and everything. But anyway, the point is that 1/3 of the Bible is prophecy for the purpose of God proving it. And prior to the proof, the last thing I thought was true was the Bible. Okay? Like most people today, I thought Eastern religion explained things more. But unlike most people, I was really into the Eastern philosophy. Most people kind of like, you don't really think about it. But if asked, if they believe in a God, they'll say, yes, but he's more of an impersonal energy and not a personal God, not a personal being. In other words, he is the universe itself and not separate from the universe. So those two things are opposite, and they can't both be true. One is called pantheism, God is the universe itself, and the other is monotheism, which is why the word holy in Hebrew means separate from. So the holy God is separate from his creation. He created the creation. He isn't the creation itself. He can't be both. The foundation of philosophy of logic 101 is A can't equal not A. The world is either round or it is flat. It can't be both. Okay? And so the God is either no God, pantheistic, or monotheistic. But he can't be both. People are very confused. So when someone says, yes, I believe in a God, but he's not like the God of the Bible, they don't believe the God of the Bible. Okay? They don't believe Jesus. And these same people will say, when asked sometimes, often, that they are a Christian. But they've got some convoluted idea of what Christianity is, and Jesus was like an enlightened master, and et cetera, okay? But it's a lie from Satan, first of all, but it has nothing to do with the Bible, and they don't know Jesus at all. In fact, they are anti-Christ. They don't know it, though. So I'm getting off subject, but the point is what I'm saying is that there's something called belief perseverance in psychology, which says that when confronted with information that contradicts a person's worldview, they naturally, instinctively block it out. Why do they do that? Well, because it would require otherwise changing their worldview. And that's something that people didn't intend to do before they encountered the information that contradicted their worldview. Changing a person's worldview is an enormous thing. It's an enormous thing. It's an uncomfortable thing, to put it mildly. It's a traumatic thing often. So, and people, if someone, for example, is a Muslim or a Catholic because they were born Catholic and because of the tradition and affiliation with their family ties and stuff like that, this is something that I completely do not understand personally. I don't empathize with that at all. For me, it's about truth. It's, and I'm intellectually honest, right? And that's why I came to faith, because I'm the rare person that's intellectually honest. There's another thing in psychology that says that 10% of people are what are called scouts, and the other 90% are soldiers. Soldiers defend their worldview because of tribalism and affiliation with the tribe that they belong to. So they just defend argumentatively, defensively. They're at war with anything that contradicts their worldview. They go through life like that. Whereas the scout, his interest is in finding the correct map of the layout of the land. He's looking to get a most accurate map as possible. 10% of people are like that. And we're all on, it's all a spectrum, So I'm on the 10% side of the spectrum. And I can't relate to someone that is a Muslim because they were born Muslim. Or a Catholic. That person hit the jackpot. As I'll tell them, wow, you're a Catholic because you were born Catholic? Wow, congratulations, my friend. You won the jackpot when you were born. You were born into the truth. How does that feel? That's amazing. How lucky are you? You were born into the truth. They haven't thought about it at all. They haven't done any kind of analysis as to what is actually true and thought about it. They're just Catholic because they were born Catholic. In other words, they're not interested in the truth, and God is interested in those who seek the truth. That's why these people aren't with God. Those who are Catholic or Muslim because they were born into that religion are not really interested in God. That's the bottom line. And so anyway, that's the case with belief perseverance. And the person that will see this video after the prediction has come to pass and see the documentation, like I just showed, with the dates and everything, and the reasoning for why the date is known in advance, that person, because of belief perseverance, will block it out. What are they going to tell themselves? They're going to say, well, predict something else and then I'll believe. And you know what? Another prediction could even be made and then they still won't believe. Maybe they'll believe, maybe some of them, but there'll still be some that still won't believe. But you don't need another prediction. This is enough. Start thinking. Start thinking clearly. Start thinking rationally. It is not possible to have known since November of 2024 with all of these profound reasons, unless what I'm saying is the case, which is that the reason I know is because of the God of the Bible. Now, there will be the New Ager that will try to fit this information into their worldview because of, again, belief perseverance. They'll say, well, I'm confused somehow, and somehow I've tapped into the quote-unquote collective consciousness, and I've been able to figure out when Paul Simon will die, and I've gone the crazy route with the Christian worldview to explain it. No, you are the crazy person. You are the one with the incorrect worldview. You are the one that is full of pride and will not question your worldview. The New Age Indian religion that will say, oh, that's interesting, this guy was able to predict it, but I'm sure the way he predicted is not quite like he says. And he has some kind of ability, supernatural or whatever, to tap into the paranormal, ephemeral collective consciousness, to pull the information down, and then mistakenly attribute it to Christianity. And I mean Orthodox Christianity, not like a New Age version of Christianity. Today, there are a lot of people that are mixing Christianity with New Age religion, especially women on YouTube. Anyway, no. This proves that you are going to hell. You are not correct. The New Age worldview or the mix between Christianity and New Age is not true. It is false. I could spend an hour with you giving you reasons, profound philosophical reasons of what's really going on with your false religion. But it is up. I don't intend to do that in this video. It is up to you to now figure it out. I'll help you along the way with other videos, and I'll make some other videos that will specifically address this subject. I've already addressed it, in fact. One of the first 5 videos I've made was on this subject of the New Age religion. But make no mistake, I know far better than you how I learned this prediction and why. It is from God, and it is to prove these controversial things that I am saying, including that the New Age religion is from Satan. It is a counterfeit Christian, it is a counterfeit religion. It has a lot of ideas that parallel Christianity, and for example, the New Age itself. It's a parallel with the Messianic age, which is the truth. The New Age is not the Eastern New Age or New Age that's coming, where people become enlightened and the human species evolves and all of this nonsense. The New Age is the Messianic age where Christ rules from Jerusalem and the Temple Mount for 1,000 years of peace. That is the truth. And the New Age is the false, counterfeit New Age theory about what's coming that is from Satan. And if you follow that religion, you are going to hell. That's the purpose of this prediction. Do you understand? Now, let's get into what I wrote here about this amazing reason for how this is known, this prediction, the death of Hulk Hogan and this famous trumpeter Chuck Mangione. Wait till you hear this. This is amazing. Now, the predicted death of Paul Simon, the singer and composer of Sound of Silence, will point to the period of silence observed in heaven in Revelation 8:1. That's why he will die on the date 8:1. Likewise, the predicted death of Simon on 8:1 will also point to Amos 8:1, the book of Amos in the Bible, chapter 8, verse 1. As it was Wally Amos, the founder of famous Amos Cookies, who first signed Simon and Garfunkel to a record label. And he did it through luring them into his office with a gift of cookies. Wally Amos died at the age of 88, which hints at Revelation 8 and Amos 8. In other words, Paul Simon's death will point to Revelation chapter 8. Now, I explain the more connections and why Wally Amos points to Amos verse 1 and all that in other videos. So, okay, this is just the prelude here. This is the introduction. Now, so we've got this 8. Revelation chapter 8, Amos 8, Amos dying at the age of 88. Okay? God is pointing to Revelation chapter 8 through the death of Paul Simon. That's why 8 days before Simon's predicted death, a cultural icon, arguably even the cultural icon, who symbolizes the 80s, died. Hulk Hogan died on July 24th, 2025, 8 days before Simon's predicted death, and Simon's death will point to Revelation chapter 8. And Hulk Hogan is the symbol of the 80s decade. The icon of the 80s, Hulk Hogan, was born exactly 888 weeks before the birth of another icon of the 80s, who also recently died. Malcolm Jamal Warner, who played the only son on the 8-season The Cosby Show, died on July 21st, 8 days after the 88th birthday of Bill Cosby. The name Warner hints at a warning of judgment. The period of silence observed in heaven in Revelation 8:1 is a warning that is followed by the trumpets of judgment and destruction. The trumpets of judgment in Revelation chapter 8 include an asteroid that is predicted to hit Earth on 9/11 in 2029 and trigger the the eruption of Yellowstone volcano in the 44th state, and the caldera is on the 44th parallel line. The media used the term Obama mania to describe the 44th president's initial rise in political popularity. Hulk Hogan was known for Hulkamania. Hulk Hogan was born on the date 8/11 in 1953. Let me just pause there. The inverse of 53, 1 divided by 53, is 0.0188, which is a number God frequently uses in his signs to point to H188 in the Hebrew concordance, which is the word that means whoa, exclamation mark. Incidentally, following the period of silence in heaven in Revelation 8:1 and the 7 trumpets is the first woe. Okay? And, so Hulk Hogan was born on the date 8/11. That's because Revelation 8:11 describes the predicted asteroid. This is part of the 7 trumpet judgments that follow Revelation 8:1 and the sound of silence, which is what Paul Simon's death on 8/1 will point to. Okay, so that's why also Hulk Hogan was born on the date 8/11. Revelation 8:11 describes the predicted asteroid hit on Earth on September 11th, 2029. Hogan was born exactly on 8/11 in 53, exactly 913 months before the predicted asteroid hit and eruption of the volcano in the 44th state. The 44th president's name is Barack, and the name Barack is the 913th word in Strong's Greek Concordance, G913. In the book of Joshua, the Israelites enacted a symbolic 3 sets of 7 and blew trumpets before the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment. Also on July 24th, 2025, it was reported, or rather trumpeted, that famous flugelhorn and trumpeter Chuck Mangione died. He died 37, which hints at 3 sets of 7, as in the symbolic 3 sets of 7 the Israelites enacted and then blew trumpets, including 7 trumpets, as in the 7 trumpet judgments in the book of Revelation. Okay, so Chuck Mangione died 37 days, as in 3 sets of 7, before the date 8/30, when it is predicted that a dirty bomb will explode in New York City. Okay, so, and Paul Simon is from New York City, and he's predicted to die at the age of 83, which hints at the date 8/30. So what's going on here? We've got Hulk Hogan and Chuck Mangione on the same day. Their deaths, okay? Hulk Hogan is tied to, as I've explained now, Warner, Malcolm Jamal Warner, another 80s icon. The two were born 888 weeks apart. Okay? Warner, as I explained in another video, the Cosby video on this channel, is a warning of judgment. So is Paul Simon's death, because it'll point to the sound of silence in heaven that was a warning before the 7 trumpet judgments. Mangione is a trumpeter. So in conjunction with the death of Hogan, that points to the book of Revelation and the warning, we have the trumpeting. The trumpets are blown as a warning of judgment, because after the trumpets, the 7 trumpets were blown, the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment, and then the destruction of Jericho came. Well, that's why their deaths and the death of Paul Simon will be a warning before the walls of security collapse in New York City and the destruction with these predicted dirty bombs on the date 8/30, and that's why Paul Simon will die at the age of 83. Okay. Also, 37 days is 888 hours, which further confirms the connection between Mangione and Hogan, who was born 888 weeks before Warner was born. And again, Warner died in a rip current, which is bridge over troubled water symbolism, and on, as I explained in the Cosby video. Now, Mangione was also a cultural icon in the 80s, and he died on the same day one of as one of the death of the biggest icons of the 80s. Their deaths are 8 days before Simon's predicted death at the age of 83. And Mangione died at the age of 84. The word bomb is equal to 84 in Hebrew gematria, as is the word Obama, which hints at Obama. Because Obama was a member of the May 19th Communist Organization at the time and during the time that this organization bombed the Capitol building. What's proof of that too is that day the Capitol building was bombed was 216 hours after the Barak bombings in Beirut. The Barak bombings in Beirut hint at Barak. That's because the word Barak, the name Barak, is equal to 216 in English gematria. Okay, and Barack Obama was born on the 216th day of the year. 216 is 6 times 6 times 6, the number of the Antichrist. And so that connection proves that Obama was part of the May 19th Communist Organization when the bombing of the Capitol building occurred. But that's just the scratching of the surface of that proof, which I've explained in other videos. Well, anyway, Mangione died 44, as in the 44th president, Obama days before the date 9/4. 4 divided by 9 equals 0.44, as in the 44th president, which is also a date in which it is predicted that dirty bombs will be detonated. Mangione's biggest hit, which is one of the most internationally recognized songs of all time, is Feels So Good. Feels So Good reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. That confirms everything. So Mangione is known for this song that reached number 4 on the Billboard chart, and he died 44 days before the date that symbolizes 0.44 and the predicted dirty bombs. And I actually predict there'll be 4 dirty bombs that will explode. I think maybe some of them or one of them will also explode on the date 8:30. The bombs will be, I think, dispersed between the 2 dates, but if not, they will all occur on the date 9/4, all 4 of them. I might not be right about 4 dirty bombs. I'm just guessing. But anyway, that's amazing because, again, he's a trumpeting a warning of judgment. This biggest song in one of the biggest songs in world history reached number 4, and he died 44 days before this date hints at 44. Okay, you get the idea. But also, it's tied to Simon, who is symbolic of the number 4, as I've explained in other videos, because the door is the 4th letter. The symbol for the door is the 4th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And the word delta is the 4th letter. The delta is the 4th letter of the Greek alphabet. And from that, we get the word door. Delta comes from dalat, the name of the Hebrew alphabet, the letter, which is the 4th letter, which is a symbol for a door. The reason why door is because the demons will cross through the door after the key opens the door from the bottomless pit in the trumpet judgment that follows the warning of sound of silence in Revelation chapter 8. Okay, and that's, again, why Simon's associated with the number 4. Also, Simon's associated with the number 4 because of the for 3 transgressions and for 4 repeated Hebrew idiom in the book of Amos, chapter 1, which is an idiom that means the tolerable limit of sin has been exceeded and judgment, destruction is unavoidable, which is what God is communicating or will communicate with the death of Paul Simon. Hulk Hogan was also known for his dramatic entrances into wrestling matches in which his theme song would play, which was the song Real American by Rick Derringer. This, first of all, makes the death of Paul Simon a warning of judgment for America, the nation that God is primarily focused on with the judgment, because judgment is commensurate, whether it be a nation or individually, with the amount of light and blessings the individual or nation received. And there are only two nations in history that were founded on a relationship with God and the Bible, Israel and America. Okay. The opening lyrics of this song, which is when Hulk Hogan dramatically entered into his wrestling matches, are, quote, "When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside," unquote. It is predicted that Paul Simon's death, which will point to the song Sound of Silence that was first released in 64, as in 1964, and 64 is 4 times 4 times 4. It is predicted that Paul Simon's death will coincide with the peak in the stock market and the S&P 500 index at the 6,400 level, as well as in conjunction with the 64th birthday of the 44th president. And 64 is again 4 times 4 times 4. And then, once this 6,400 level is peaked in conjunction with the sign that will point to the song that was released in 64 and the 64th birthday of the president, when the market reaches the 6,400 level and then peaks in conjunction with the death of Paul Simon and the birthday of the 44th president, then after the peak, the stock markets will begin their biggest crash in history. That's a prediction. That's another prediction. Okay? It's not a small, trivial prediction either. Someone will say that it is, but it isn't. Think about it rationally. Yes, there are people predicting a crash. I'm not predicting a crash. I'm predicting the precise level of the crash and the precise timing because of the 6,400 level and the 64th birthday and the song that was released in 64. That's extremely precise. I'm also saying that it isn't just a crash, it's the biggest crash in history, but there are some people that are anticipating that. But the prediction is the timing and the level. Okay? So, thus the prophetic reason for the lyric, "When it comes crashing down," and the death of Hulk Hogan, who made the song big because he entered the matches with the song in this opening verse, "When it comes crashing down," that's why Hulk Hogan died 8 days before the predicted peak of the stock market in conjunction with Paul Simon, which will point to Revelation chapter 8, as I've explained. Okay, on this day that Hulk Hogan died, and it was trumpeted that Chuck Mangione died, July 24th, the day the 80s icon died, 80s 40 plus 40, the S&P 500 stock market index, and incidentally, G500 is the word for Antichrist in the Greek concordance, closed at 63.63, which was a gain on the day of 4.44 points and 0.07%. 63 hints at 3 sixes and 666, the number of the Antichrist. So the S&P closed at 63.63 plus 4.44 points. That's because the Antichrist is the 44th president. Yesterday, in other words, July 24th, is 4 plus 4 days before it is predicted that Paul Simon will die. And Simon is associated with the number 4, as I've explained. Bridge is the same symbol as bridge over troubled water, bridge being the same symbol as door, and door equals 4 because the fourth letter of the Hebrew alphabet is a symbol of the door. And also, God is pointing through the death of Paul Simon to the book of Amos, chapter 1, which has 15 verses and repeats the idiom in Hebrew that is for 3 transgressions and for 4, which is an idiom that means the tolerable limit of sin has been exceeded and now unavoidable is judgment. And so, and Paul Simon's death will, on the date 8:1, will point to Revelation 8:1 in the 8th chapter, the warning of silence in heaven that's followed by the 7 trumpets. That's why the gain of 0.07%, 4.44 points, 4 plus 4 days before the predicted death of Simon, which will hint at the 4 plus 4th chapter of the book of Revelation, that following the silence in heaven is the 7 trumpets of judgment. Now, this is the day that Paul Simon is predicted to die, in which it is predicted that the stock market will peak at the 4 times 4 times 400 level, the 6400 level. Paul Simon's song, Sound of Silence, was released in 64. And again, this will be in conjunction with the 4 times 4 times 4th birthday of the 44th president. That's why God is amazingly pointing to this. He's pointing to the 4 times 4 times 400 level in the stock market through this stock market sign 4 plus 4 days earlier when it gained 4.44 points. Stunning. Hulk Hogan was known for tearing his shirt off his body. He would wear his Hulkamania shirt, tank top, into the ring. Before every match, he would tear his shirt off. This is one thing he was definitely known for, ripping his clothes off his body. In the Bible, the tearing of one's clothes off their body, like the way Hulk Hogan would do, is symbolic of emotional pain associated with loss or tragedy, or death, actually. Hulk Hogan, the man who would tear his shirt before every wrestling match, died. This is part of the warning, Hulk Hogan's death, because he would tear his shirt off, of the coming emotional pain, death, and tragedy in America. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Do not listen to or follow the example of most quote-unquote Christians. Instead, follow the teachings of Jesus, which most quote-unquote Christians ignore. Like Jesus, you must surrender your life. Put nothing ahead of Jesus, your Lord. Like Jesus, you must lay down your life so that you may live. As Jesus said, one must die first, like a kernel of wheat going into the ground, in order to then grow and produce fruit. And like Jesus said, one must produce fruit, or else like a branch or a tree not producing fruit, they will be thrown into the fire. Jesus was speaking to quote-unquote Christians when he said this. One must die the self in order to be born again. And like Jesus said, one must be born again to enter the kingdom. Like Jesus, you must sacrifice your life for the sake of the coming kingdom. It means to do work that involves some form of sacrifice and risk. To have faith does not mean to intellectually agree. You need to demonstrate your faith through taking action. To have faith means to trust in God's promises. Taking action demonstrates trust and fear of the Lord. The primary reason that the wrath of God is coming upon America is quote-unquote Christians that do not get what I have just explained. The only reason a Christian is alive is in order to help other people become Christians and make it to the kingdom. Do not be deceived by those on the political left claiming to be quote-unquote Christians. There is no such thing as a Christian on today's political progressive left. Jesus said, "Do not think I have come to abolish or change any bit of the law or the prophets of the Old Testament Bible." In other words, the God of the Old Testament Bible is the exact same God of the New Testament Bible. It is essential that you learn about the God of the Bible and his ways. The God of the Old Testament Bible is looking to see who will fear him, and to fear God is not the same thing as quote-unquote revering or honoring God. Through Christ's ransom payment, a Christian is someone who has been redeemed and freed from slavery to sin and Satan. In response, a true Christian recognizes that their life in this world does not belong to them, and they become a willing slave to Jesus for the sake of the kingdom. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. And don't only put the link to this video or another video on this channel in comments sections of places you typically visit, but importantly, put the link to the video in places you never visit, where people who don't think like you visit. If you are a quote-unquote Christian, nothing in terms of an evangelism tool compares to this video with its prediction. It is a massive bag of gold. Beware of Jesus' warning through the quote-unquote Christian that did nothing with his bag of gold and was banished to hell. Also, read Ezekiel chapter 3 and 33 for this same warning. If you think you might be spending too much time watching videos instead of working and sacrificing for the kingdom through handing out flyers and potentially helping hundreds of people in the same length of time as a video, my flyer is filled with amazing information that people need to know right now, and it points people to the video channel. Now is not the time to be handing out typical evangelical tracts that are largely based in error anyway, such as, quote, Jesus loves you, unquote, for example. You can hand out the flyer on busy street corners, put them on car windshields in busy parking lots, and put them in mailboxes. Just send the file to your local print shop. You can download the file from the website. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, asteroidprediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the Odyssey.com or Rumble.com channel, and do it now in case you aren't able to later.